Hey guys, it's Matt. So the trolls say Joe Rogan. I'm not looking in the camera. I'm looking at myself. I can see it, I guess. He's more weathered than me. He looks like these days, he looks like a piece of jerky that somebody left out on the hot sidewalk or something. He's a few years older. We're about the same age, but he's a little bit more weathered than me. I can see why the trolls push that. What else are they going to push? No troll has ever come forth and said this theory of Matt's is complete bullshit and broken it down. Why don't they go after what I say? You think that that would be something they would consider? Oh, hi Zara. A lot to get off my chest, guys. Let me just start with the most important part. I don't know how to say this. I'll just say it, then we'll get on to a lot of other topics. It is. I guarantee you feel the way I do, guys. The world feels really, really strange. I didn't really notice it this summer as much. It's just the dog days of the summer, the hot weather. When the seasons change, it's a very strange emotional time for me. But this year has been much different. I don't know. It's like a flood of emotion. I don't know. I don't know how to talk about it. Just if you feel the world is really strange and really alien, there's nothing wrong with you. There's something wrong with the world. I think it's my explanation of it is simple. Again, it gets back to the ship of fools deciding to leave the ship of fools, deciding to take the lifeboats. It's rowing away or escaping a frequency. I mean, the Tesla, whatever Tesla was, or if he's a not no cartoon character, there's any legitimacy to Tesla. Whether he was a real man or not, his whole story is used by Not Milk. It's mostly false at this point, but his quote about everything is frequency, vibration, resonance, or whatever he said, it's true. And see, our vibration is not of the world anymore. And like we talked about several years ago, as the ship sails and it gets farther and farther away, or further, depending on the definition you want to use, could be seen either way. It's going to get stranger for us. The feel, I think, is going to get more unsettling until we just finally just get habituated to it and used to it. We may get so used to seeing the world as alien that we just get used to it. It doesn't, I mean, many of us probably are getting used to it. But there's other things I want to get off my chest, other topics I want to talk about. And I am going to pause this video a lot because remember that one time I recorded it over an hour and then nothing was there. So I have to make sure this is being recorded. And Zara, of course, is always right on the wire. The world, I think this will continue. I mean, I know every one of you feels how strange the world is. And for many of you, it's hard to take. And we'll continue to laugh at it and know if you feel this way, you're the normal one. The world is abnormal. Everybody on the ship of fools vibrates with it. They just go along with its frequency. There's nothing that strange to them. Although they don't, there's several things they're going to complain about regarding the way the world's going. But, their vibration will be in line with it, in tune with it. And it's literally a musical note. Our note is getting whatever I played an instrument. I played the trumpet for about 6 weeks in third or fourth grade, lugging the damn trumpet back and forth. I was like, what am I doing? This is not for me. I never got very good at it. I forget the notes, but we're A, B, C, whatever, G sharp. We're getting further and further down away from the treble clef. I remember that. What the heck's that? But anyway, it's very strange. All we can do is laugh at it and marvel at it is fine. It's wondrous. It's incredible. It's even more incredible if you're Mandela affected. It's just something to behold. Look at it like just you're a participant in some way in the strangest act of a play that's ever taken place in the history of histories. Whenever possible, look at it as wondrous and funny. But it's tough to take. It is. I feel it too. I feel your pain. I feel it too. I don't break down and cry, but sometimes you feel like you want to. You really do. And usually, whenever I shed a tear, it's more like the beauty of something. It's not the horrible debauchery in the world or the political shows that come on CNN, it's usually something of beauty that I've never noticed before. And I think again that sentimentality, that sentiment, and nostalgia, I believe, is because many of us aren't going to do anything like this ever again. How many times before we may have done this? This is it for many of us. Material planes, things. So there is a beauty to it. There are certain experiences here that maybe we'll never experience again, and there's a beauty to this place that they can't completely snuff out, and that's very emotional for many of us, knowing, just sensing this is the last time. So I don't know. Again, I'm not a big believer in reincarnation. I don't. There's a lot of different theories. Tony's theories of simultaneous incarnations and material planes of existence. I don't know. I'm completely, unlike many here, like Joe in Mexico remembers prior lives or negotiations about this life as to what he would participate in or not, and remembers to a degree what he was before this incarnation. I'm completely, and I've told you this, I'm completely, unlike many of you, completely mind wiped. I am truly Tommy, the deaf, dumb, and blind kid. I don't remember one bit of what I was, who I was. I've talked to people that remember coming into the body as a soul, but at age 1.5 or 2 years old, the soul coming into the body after. I've talked to this person in person, but I've heard similar things in what's been communicated to me via email and comments and things like that. And I don't remember one bit of who I was, but there's one thing for sure. People say, Matt, in a prior life or whatever, in some existence or a simultaneous incarnation of yours or your higher self died of being frozen or froze out in the cold, because, again, this whole stove fixation I have. I bought a barrel stove, a double barrel stove, years ago for $100 off Craigslist. There's 2 oil barrels somebody made into a double stove. I use it to burn papers and things like that. It's been useful for me, but I have like a backup stove, and it's ridiculous the amount of potential heat sources that I can produce so I don't freeze to death. It's strange. People have said, Matt, you froze to death. Yo ass froze to death in a prior life. Nobody needs a stove and then a backup stove, and then now you can make the bricks. You can back that stove up with another stove. It's ridiculous. It really is ridiculous. But it's also my hobby and interest. There's something about that. Maybe that happened to me in a past life, but I have no recollection whatsoever. We're some of us in this community, again, they do in different things they can call forth. The person that said they came into the body as a soul, but a year and a half or so, or 2 years, I don't forget what they said, after the birth, the soul wasn't with the body at birth. They remember thinking, like, this is just horrible. Cut a little bit of that off. A quick segment now. It's pretty trivial, but something I want to get off my chest. We'll do more important topics coming up, some things that I think you'll find interesting. This guy Eric Weinstein, whatever, he popped up in your feed as much as he's popping up in my feed? This is like a Terrence Howard syndrome type thing. Although this guy, I looked him up. If he does have a PhD in mathematical physics from Harvard, I assure you he's much better in his math class than I would be. He's probably truly intelligent. This guy's full of shit. But you can be intelligent and full of shit. In fact, some of the most intelligent people are full of shit. Look at Mitch Pikachu and look at Stephen Hawking. Intelligence and full of shit are not mutually exclusive. Remember, but it's kind of like a Terrence Howard syndrome, but this guy might actually be smart, but yet he's just the same degree of full of shit. So his name's Eric Weinstein. Look, I'm sorry if you don't know who this is. It just pops up all over the place for me. The way this Terrence Howard started popping up and Bill starts making posters about it. I've saved them, Bill, and I'll show everybody those Terrence Howard posters in the future. He just pops up with this. He's spouting off this nonsense about these 1 times 1 is what did he say? 1 times 1 is 2? So I look. I just came out. I just without looking at this guy for more than 5 or 10 minutes. This is all nonsense. And then I wasn't the first to say that, but everybody's saying it now. But we don't. Who knows? I don't think he's that smart. This guy Eric Weinstein probably is. Weinstein is. I don't know how do you pronounce it. He probably is. He's on Joe Rogan Experience, and he pops up over here, and he has these theories on reality. And he was a managing director of investments for Peter Thiel or Peter Thiel. I'm sure he's a multi billionaire. This guy's Eric Weinstein's probably worth hundreds of millions of dollars or much more. It doesn't matter what he's worth. I'm just giving you a little bit of background about him. Anyway, I don't have much more to say except to complain about him. And I would, if the Google bot related to the Chat GPT and the AI systems are listening to me in real time and uploading my transcript to the Ministry of Information, which will eventually communicate it to Knottnilk, if you can tell Google bot, I don't want to see any more nonsense from this guy Eric Weinstein. He's just full of shit. And I don't, he may, it doesn't mean he's like a Knottnilk actor or player. He may fully believe in his bull crap. The Knottnilk uses people like this. It uses people like this, whether they're aware of it or not, to ultimately, what is the message that people will take away from his nonsense and all these different things he talks about. He cements to people that the world is very real. And first and foremost, this Knottnilk system needs to be believed in. It needs to be believed in. Without that, it has nothing. So people see this very intelligent, well-spoken individual, Eric Weinstein, come on and talk about politics and the dangers of potentially Trump getting back in office. And every time the court, interesting to people viewing about theories about the universe. They don't understand his nonsense. But the takeaway, and this is the Knottnilk's intention, the takeaway to the masses is this guy's, the masses look at this guy and say, this guy's very smart. And subconsciously they say, he's smarter than me. He's taking all this seriously, so maybe I should too. Not that the people in the Ship of Fools are going to question anything. Man, I hear you screaming at me. But the Knottnilk will reinforce right on the keyboard. Is it still recording? No, thank you. Still recording? Yeah. It's to reinforce this world is believable and to be taken very seriously. And there is no spiritual side to anyone, and this is all that matters. And its petty rewards are all that's important. So thanks, Eric Weinstein, for reinforcing that. Googlebot, I don't want to see any more of his horse shit. Quick little thought exercise for a few minutes. I'm not sure what to call it. I just thought this the other day. I thought you guys would find it interesting. I'm not saying it's true. I don't think it's true at all, but there's something to this. So let me just jump right into it. There's people that you guys know and I know that they avoid the sun at all costs. And to these people, I've said quite recently, actually, I'll say to them, so you're trying to avoid the sun, and I don't like to get more than 5 minutes at a time. They believe in, whether it be for their skin or whatever reason. There's a lot of people that avoid the sun. So I'll say to them, you see that thing up there? The sun? Yeah, the sun. You see the Goodyear blimp up there? The sun. Yeah, the sun. That's good. That thing up there that we're both looking at now is responsible for all life. So does it make sense to want to avoid it? It's responsible for all life everywhere on this thing called Earth. Nothing exists without it. So does it make sense to avoid it, or to, not that you should sit out and bake in it, and we understand sunburn, but to get a little bit, to embrace the sun. See, that makes a little bit more sense when it's responsible for all life. And the people I've said it to, I don't think they're going to change their behaviors. I think they're going to still try to avoid it, or I can't get more than 5 minutes. Anyway, so that the second part of this is, the old guard here sees that this is a world of opposites. Well, everybody here listening to me, everything is opposite here. Everything is backwards. A K through 12 education versus, say, a homeschooling makes a child dumber. I mean, everything is backwards. Plus, we have the duality. There's always its opposite. The sun and the moon fit right on top of each other in a 1 in a trillion coincidence. If these are heavenly or planetary bodies, the way Mitch Pikachu says, is ridiculous. But put it, okay, so we agree that this sun is life-giving in 1,000 different ways. Probably we don't understand. In addition to vitamin D. Well, the sun, of course, does so much more for us that we don't even understand, or maybe the not milk understands and they won't share it with us. So we agree. But if everything here again has its opposite, and this is a place that must be dual in nature, then is the moon the opposite? And what does that mean? It means potentially exposure to the moon brings death. Am I going to put this forth as my answer on the final extra credit question on the test? No, I don't. I'm just throwing it out. I don't believe that at this point. I'm not afraid of the moon. I love looking up at the moon. But just think about it. Think about it. There's something to this, right? I mean, again, I don't believe it, but it's just worth throwing out. This thing, the sun is responsible for all life. Everything here has its duality. Everything here has its opposite. The moon then would be responsible, or at least represent death. It doesn't mean exposure to them. That means then going out into the moonlight takes minutes off your life for every minute you're under the moon. I don't think so, but I thought you'd find it interesting because we know the first is true. Sun brings all life. We know the second is true. It is an immutable rule of this place that there has to be an opposite or the duality. We know the moon is the duality of the sun for a lot of reasons, including the eclipse. So the moon, we know the sun brings life. We could see the negative health effects of somebody that hasn't been out in the sun for years. And I remember in high school they showed us films of people that live in certain parts of Russia and Siberia. They put these kids in the winter under a certain type of lamp, and it helps them with their vitamin D or their bones grow or something. They're under artificial because that part of the world, the sun doesn't even clear the mountains for months, as many of you know, in Norway and things like that, or Iceland. So there's these kids. I always remember seeing this. It was like a film. I think one of these. This could have been elementary school. I think it was a film reel. Remember, people my age, the teacher used to put a reel through. It was like real film, and these kids standing under this light. So we know the sun. You can see a flower grow. We know that all these other parts are true. So we don't know what the moon really represents or its effect or. I hate to even throw it out there. It sounds stupid, and I'm not going to avoid the moon. Of course not. I love staring up at the moon. It's so clear. It's local to me. It's not. It's so crystal clear. And when I put my glasses on, there's no possible way it could be 250,000 miles away. The sun is local too, to a degree. So I just thought you'd find it interesting. The fear videos on YouTube and elsewhere are starting to pop up about the aftermath of the election. No matter what side wins, the other side will be quite angry. You know what? They're going to try to make it look like that, and they will send their most brainwashed minions on each side. They'll rile them up to do whatever, and the news will make it seem like it's a much bigger deal than it is. I don't think most people care, really. The people that we know that we say are on the ship of fools, they discuss the politics. They seem passionate at times, of course. They are fooled by it. But the percentage of people that actually would get upset to go to the streets, it's a tiny little percentage. And the news, of course, will make it seem like whatever pockets of Antifa rioting breaks out or whoever, if Trump doesn't get in, of course, it will be stolen from him, and you could have the pickup truck army with the flags welded onto the back, and the shotgun racks could go and try to do something. But the news will make it seem bigger, much bigger than it is. Again, if a few blocks in a few cities are, whatever. The glass is shattered. It's not the end. Life will go on. It's not a big deal. They're going to try to get people all riled up. They want that sort of reaction on each side. It'll just expect it. And when you see the news story, know that it's 90% less than what the news says. That's my thought. I think they do the same thing mostly with the Fox News watchers on the border. They work the Fox News watcher conservative Republican up into a frenzy that just hundreds of thousands are pouring across the border. Now, that doesn't mean, there's no legitimacy to it, and it's one or the other. And I don't like, a lot of things I see about migrants, being put up everywhere at taxpayer expense, and all the horrific stories from Europe as they fled Syria. Of course, I'm not for that at all. I mean, the resources are strained. No, you can't let tens of thousands across the border. But the numbers that they tell the conservative, they brainwash the conservative into thinking that there's just waves and waves and waves, and I don't buy it. I don't. I know you can go to certain parts of certain cities, and these migrants are there in New York, and certain cities have attracted it, of course. But again, you watch Fox News, and you just think thousands and thousands and thousands a day are pouring across the border. I don't buy it. You can't. If you're going to pour, you need a place to go. They're not all being put up and being provided with housing if they're tens of thousands by the government. If you pour across somebody's border, you need a place to go. You need to be a plan. They try, I'm sure to create a migrant problem. Of course, these not-nil governments fuel it, and they make promises, but it's not what Fox News shows you. It just isn't, Anyway, taking a quick glance at the headlines for just a minute to make sure that Tucson is still with us and nothing major's happened. And Michael, by the way, who knows a lot about a lot, we'll just put it like that. He tells me it's very dangerous to look closely at the headlines, dangerous for anyone. But Michael, I have to take a quick look, and if anything major, I've got to talk about it. And I won't focus on it. And Michael, I believe my armor is adequately prepared and my sword is oiled. If you notice a change in me, Michael, like I'm being possessed in some way, let me know. But I don't think it can get to me at this point. There is a legitimate news story. James Earl Jones has died. He's one of my favorites. People will come, Ray. People will most definitely come. If there's, a few people that you could say are under the dragon's wing and have spent their whole life in Hollywood, is it possible for anybody to escape? Or not to escape, but to be part of that system and not be, a complete and utter demon? If it's possible, I think James Earl Jones would be one of these people. I know he played Thulsa Doom in Conan, but I don't know. I'm not a reader of auras, but he's certainly. I mean, in terms of auras, you have Alec Baldwin, and you have somebody like, say, Morgan Freeman or James Earl Jones. I don't think they're the same entity. I'm not here vouching for anybody that's been in Hollywood for 45 years, but I'll miss the movies of James Earl Jones. I don't know what the last thing he did was it Coming to America 2, where I like the concept. He's like, let's celebrate my death before I die. The king, he had a celebration for his death before he died. I mean, that's the way it should be. The corpse can't enjoy anything. So, I'm here for my son Akeem. Some great roles, including Thulsa Doom. So James Earl Jones, thank you, my man. I don't think you were one of the same demons like Alec Baldwin. Oh no, the debate is tonight. Trump, Kamala Harris. Have they already debated a few times? I have no idea. Maybe this is the one and only. I had no idea till this just popped up. I mean, what type of person is getting excited for tonight's debate? Well, Matt, you watched them in the past. I did watch them in the past and believed in them. But I mean, again, we slowly evolved into our understanding of how the world works. But the presentation today is so ridiculous. Again, it's just unfathomable how anybody believes it. It's not, guys. The debate keeps coming back. Not that debate. This debate. That, Matt, is it that it has completely broken down and its presentation is no longer believable or professional, or it's just that we can see, just that we now have a different perception. So it's both. Okay, it's on its own. Its presentation has broken down. It is not even what it was. Where I know I watched obviously Hillary Trump. I mean, who could not watch that, no matter what you believed at the time. I mean, that was such a gigantic spectacle. I know I watched that. Before that, in terms of me watching it and potentially believing in it, I know I watched Mitt Romney against Obama. It would have been 2012. 2008 was McCain. McCain, had already lost his mind at that point, and Obama was legitimately elected. But my mindset, I agree, it doesn't make sense. I'm not proud of it. I watched the Mitt Romney debate. That's the one where he said he had binders full of women. I got binders full of women, he said. Because, see, my path to truth came through conservatism. As we've talked about, a Republican and conservative is a much more a logical choice than being a liberal lunatic Democrat, where you just, the worst parts of the government you just keep asking for more of. Kevin baking bacon, pledging the Omega House. Psh, thank you, sir. May I have another? That's all Democrats do. The worst parts of authority in government, they simply bend over and ask for more of it. The conservative, at least, I understand they're still fooled, but it's more natural. It's more normal. I've talked about it many times. At least they push back. They say, why are we spending so much? At least they have complaints, and they don't just bend over in the Omega House. So that was my path to truth, and I'm not proud of this, but so it doesn't make sense. I agree. So Matt, how could you have been fully understanding that the big day in September, back to the year 2001, was that presentation was all bogus, yet you were watching Mitt Romney debate Obama and rooting for, not like I liked Mitt Romney, but as coming out of conservatism as my path into truth, as the baby step into truth, we were meant to just loathe Obama. I mean, I listened to a few years right around that time, or a few years prior, I was listening to Rush Limbaugh. I was watching the Glenn Beck show on Fox at 5 o'clock, believing that was the pinnacle of truth. So he's exposing the shadow corporations, or the offshore corporations of George Soros, who's drumming up the Ferguson riots. I thought we finally hit the mother lode. This is true. This is the real truth. And not understanding it just was a tiny little step towards ultimately where we need to be, and that the people we're watching were just different versions of what we call graduated animal farms. So I'm not proud of this, but so what was my mindset? How could I watch the debate of Romney Obama? Not that I liked Romney, but just loathing Obama. Again, anybody that at all considered themselves a conservative around 2008-9, you just loathed Obama. And then he was meant to be loathed. And of course, I fell right into the trap. But then, see, if I'm investigating the September, with the day coming up in just a few days, the year 2001, if I'm seeing through that, then it should have been very simple that there's no possible way the presentation of politics could be legitimate, because the one event that's false is 1,000 times larger than the presentation of politics. So it's just, look, guys, I'm not proud of it. I didn't have immediate perception like Greg and many of you. It took me at least 10 years to get a clue as to how this reality works. I think I've gotten pretty close, and I think I've continued to evolve. But the point is, back to the debate tonight, it is not even, its professionalism is not what it was even with Romney, Obama. I mean, as ridiculous as that was, it looks, compared to what's out there today, and it's not just because of our perception, it was legitimate to a degree. I mean, its presentation was professional. It has completely broken down into a clown show, It's not just because of our perception, although perception is our consciousness does affect reality. We've talked about the concept of two different realities, multiple realities. Is the reality that's coming back to us through our senses based on where we've taken our frequency or our consciousness, the same reality that comes into, say, my friend Tony. It is possible it is a different reality to us as it passes through the senses, but these are just thought exercises and no reason to ponder it at this time. To us, at least, this is broken down. And you would think that, my family tonight that's going to watch, some of them are going to watch the debate, you would think they're generally getting the same ridiculous presentation that I am and that you are. And you just shake your head and, how many times, can you be fooled by the same thing? When I'm watching Mitt Romney Obama, well, I guess was it Al Gore Bush around 2000? Was that the first time I voted? Did I even vote? I don't think I even voted then because I was in San Francisco. The first time I voted, I don't know. But in other words, I hadn't been through it. I didn't care in my 20s. I hadn't been through it, the cycle that many times. And I do believe the presentation was more professional. But to be in your 40s and 50s or many of my family 60s and 70s, and to be looking at this political race, I don't. It's just incomprehensible to us. And I guess I'm just saying the same thing over and over again. So no, I won't be watching the debate. Here's an example of, even if it's real, it's fake. Dolphins, NFL football, Miami Dolphins star Tyreek Hill was detained by police hours before Miami's season opener. What body camera footage shows? Well, I don't know anything about the story. I'm not going to click on it. It shows Tyreek here with a certain look on his face. It's obvious it's going to be a story about an inappropriate detention because of skin color and because he's a black man. Of course, that's what it is. This is a classic example, in my opinion, of even if it's real, it's fake. Meaning it's all not milk. But he may have been detained. He may have. If you interview him, he might pass a lie detector. He said they pulled me here or there. They detained me because they believe because of my skin color. I'm not clicking on it, guys. I have no idea what it's about. It has to be likely about what I'm saying. I'm gonna look really stupid if I'm wrong about this. I'm gonna have to take a quick look. All right, I looked at it for 1 minute. What popped up immediately was the total body camera footage available or something from the police, 105 minutes and 33 seconds. There's the 33 marker again. And this is actually, we're going to talk about this one for 5 minutes because this is a great example that separates the first grade truther, or what I accuse the first grade truther of, and where I was going to say where we are, but I can't speak for all of you. I'm just going to say where I am, knowing that many of the old guard and people that have been here generally agree with my sentiment on this. We know it's all not milk. Okay, we know this whole presentation is exactly what the not milk wants, but nobody's in on it. Even if it's real, it's fake. It's real and fake at the same time. Tyreek, in my opinion, Tyreek Hill wasn't given secret instructions by the men in black. The officers weren't visited by the CIA, and here's what we're going to do, and here's what we're going to put. For the first grade truther, it's all actors. It's all an act, and it's a frequency. Nobody's consciously in on it in these types of presentations. They do exactly what the not milk wants without being consciously in on it. It's a frequency, vibration, download, radio station. So, and of course, the not milk is so evil genius that it gives each side exactly what they need to latch on to their side. And this is a great example. If you are, say, a Fox News watcher, a white conservative, and you view the story or you look into it, it gives you, as someone with that perspective, everything you need to dig in on your side. Well, if Tyreek Hill didn't want to be treated like this, why didn't he just cooperate? Why did he say certain things to the officers to get them all riled up. Don't you know those officers in Miami deal with a lot of lowlifes and their lives are at risk every day? And why and if you're taking the side of Tyreek Hill as every single white cop is bad, and obviously they just targeted him because of his skin color. If you're on that side, BLM, then the story is giving you everything you need to latch on to your side, to say, oh, this more police officer racism. It gives each side its Goldilocks, just enough evil genius, and in the extreme, how it does this. Nobody got secret orders. What happened to Tyreek Hill from his perspective is real. What happened to the officers from their perspective is real. From our perspective, it's fake. It's real and fake at the same time. Even if it's real, it's fake. It comes from the Knot-Nilk and exactly what the Knot-Nilk wanted. However, its mechanism, its download, however it arranged this, it's not legitimate. It's not completely organic or real. So that's why we say even if it's real, it's fake. But this is a good. The 33 then seems to provide that marker. Look at me. It's an announcement of some kind. The 33 doesn't always mean it's a bogus event. That the first grade truther kind of latches onto that. But it said, I think they said Tyreek Hill, after he scored a touchdown, put his hand, that later that day went on to get to the stadium on time. It was not, I think they started to arrest him. They didn't take him down. He would have missed the game. He put his hands behind his back as if he was being arrested after scoring a touchdown. So this event just lingers on. It's a classic example of even if it's real, it's fake. To the players on the ground, it's real. I know the first grade truthers, the third grade truthers can't accept that. No way, Matt. He was just like all the NFL's scripted. He was told that this event was everybody is an actor in this event. They know what they're doing. Nope. And the more I look at this sort of thing, the more I believe, the more even if it's real, it's fake. It's a download or those on the frequency kind of executing or doing what the Knot-Nilk wants. First grade truther just can't see that. Just they got secret orders, and by that notion, there'd be Men in Black. There'd be thousands of teams of Men in Black all over the West, U.S. and Europe, etc., just coordinating, organizing with hundreds of thousands of catastrophe thespians and people in on it and witnesses faking everything. It's just ridiculous. It's a download. It's not that. That doesn't mean Ribby Bobby from the Robin Williams movie Captain Hook. It doesn't mean that he believed Matt, does that mean he believed he lost a little one the day? No, I'm not saying. Don't bend my words. People say, well, Matt believes everything's real. No, they pull a lot of shit off. I'm just saying, for the first grade truther, if there's 100,000 people involved, it's 100,000 actors. I think if there's 100,000 people that somewhat need to be involved in a Knot-Nilk presentation or a series of hundreds of presentations a month, I would think it's 95% just people you would say like on a download, and only 5% actors are knowing exactly what's going on. So anyway, sorry to be a little long-winded on this Tyreek Hill thing, but it's a classic example of even if it's real, it's fake. Let me end by trying to coin a phrase that describes a rule of this reality, a law of this reality. I looked at some synonyms and something I'll look to your comments. I'm sure I can do a lot better than this with your help. The rule of far-reaching stories. The reality rule of far-reaching stories. I was talking with somebody recently about the Titanic, and this person does not see the world exactly as we do, but they're aware of all the potential conspiracies related to the Fed and the swapping of the names and the dinnerware and the napkins between Olympic and Titanic for the insurance money and all the conspiracy that goes along with it. And it's a good example, Titanic, and there's hundreds and hundreds of these examples. And again, we'll replace this name, but for now, the reality rule of far-reaching stories, or a far-reaching and enormous or massive stories, if there is, it's very similar to a Humpty Dumpty or a stuffed Lenin. If there is a story very similar to a Humpty Dumpty that just has become massive in this reality, and it usually does relate to an aspect of history, but not always. And everybody on the street knows about it. You could tap somebody and say, "Tell me about the Titanic," and they would say the same bullet points. Oh, it was the grandest ship when it set sail, which is ridiculous because the Olympic had already set sail 6 months earlier. But whatever. Whenever that happens, the rule of far-reaching stories, and everybody knows about it, then there's, per the rule of this reality, there's no possible way the story is legitimate. It is literally a rule, in my opinion, that it can never be broken or will never be broken. There can be a degree of legitimacy. There was probably a boat called Titanic. Something sank. Was it intentional? Was there really an iceberg? I mean, but in terms of what's presented, it's not. It's false. So you could do this in 1,000 different places. Look at the story related to Paul Revere's ride, the American Revolution, 1776. Paul Revere's ride reads, it's just like everybody knows that the shot heard round the world, and it's like a storybook. One if by land, two if by sea, and it's just too perfect. Rule of far-reaching stories means essentially what's presented. There's a small degree of legitimacy, but mostly illegitimate. And even in the Not Milk even gives that one away. If you look at it closely, you find out that others continued to concord. And Paul Revere, why did he get the credit, yet he was detained? It wasn't even him. So the Not Milk gives that one away. But I'll look to your comments to see if there are exceptions to this. Anything, the stabbing of Julius Caesar, we could just do this all day long. 23 stab wounds, Brutus, the Ides of March, completely illegitimate. How it's even tied into the Ides of March, which makes no sense. They would never even recorded the number of stab wounds. If it was recorded, it would have been a guess because one wound would have been close to another. There's no way that would have been carried through history like a Humpty Dumpty. There's no way history would have recorded that through 2,000 years. It's just ridiculous. So it's such a big story. Guilty with the stories. It's such a big story that you just say, a rule of, Uncle Fred, rule of far-reaching stories, reality rule. What? It means everybody knows that. If you just stop somebody on the street corner, they would know. Tell me about Julius Caesar. Oh, he was stabbed. Everybody knows. You'd say, well, then it can't possibly be legitimate in this reality. Doesn't mean all the elements aren't there. Maybe there was an emperor named Julius Caesar. Maybe he was murdered. But, 80-90% is false. I mean, does anything else pop up? What they say the Holy Grail is, a cup, a chalice. Of course, that's not what it is. We've done whole videos on what the Holy Grail really is. Finding that piece of yourself, the spiritual aspect of yourself. It's just like Humpty Dumpty, looking to all the king's horses and all the king's men to help put yourself back together. It's ridiculous. It just can't look to the king's horses and king's men, the experts, authority, government. They don't do anything for anybody but just distract you and keep you down. It's the same with the Grail. Looking for the Holy Grail, that's like you looking for it out there. King Arthur and his merry men. Well, that's Robin Hood. King Arthur and Lancelot and Galahad and Gawain and searching the lands out here for this thing. We know that they need to. The only place they're not looking is where it is inside them. So how many stories are told by this thing called the Not Milk that just almost everybody on Earth knows. There are some things like Humpty Dumpty where everybody on Earth knows it, but it's not. I don't like the words. Then it's not legitimate. Then there's another meaning. what's presented is not the final meaning or not legitimate. But if it's something to do with, history, so you could do it with even, there was a presidential Two Asses in a Nation in Dealey Plaza in 1963 in Dallas. Oh, I haven't done that for a while. Governor Connolly says, Dallas, Mr. President, look, there's no doubt now or anymore that Dallas loves you. Dallas. And I still have the Dallas t-shirt that was sent to me. And I need to wear that soon. It's a little big, but I'll wear it this winter. Dallash. So that's one of the biggest stories of all time to anybody in the world. So per the reality rule of far-reaching and immense and enormous stories, it couldn't possibly be legitimate. It's almost like an inverted scale that as the story becomes more world-renowned and more recognized, the legitimacy of what Not Nelk presents goes down and down and down, like they cross over the X and Y axis. Or, again, in the case of Humpty Dumpty, what it really is far different than what's presented. There could be a very positive spiritual message. We're going to do a whole video. We need to do a whole video sometime on the reality rule of far-reaching stories. Matt, that's like what you said earlier about the sun and the moon, everything being in inverse. Yeah, exactly. I'm not prepared to talk about it now, but this is, how many thousands of examples are there? And I'll look to your comments to see if there's any. Again, the most interesting thing would be if anything bucks the trend. Well, obviously, I don't want to get into that. That's a little too inflammatory to get into that at this time. We'll talk about it some other time. Thanks, guys.